to that link and email us there. That is our email address. And thank you for joining our presentation once again. And some of the benefits of being an IIBA member is that you have an access to a library featuring plus minus 11,000 titles, access to member exclusive webinars, PDF publications, articles, industry papers and reports, opportunities to connect with other members at local or international conferences, at chapter events. There are exclusive access to the global community of BAs, educators, thought leaders, mentors and coaches, and saving you up to 40% on global recognized professional qualifications. And there are discounts that are there for attending the conferences like the BA Summit and the likes. And if you prefer, you may post your questions in the chat. We will read them to the presenter. Once we declare that we're no longer taking questions, you still have questions, we will forward them to the presenter and the presenter will answer you directly. Okay. Just wanna tell you a bit about our presenter this evening, who is Karabo Mmakou. She is a certified business analyst professional, a BA team lead and a practice lead at SARB. She's got over 15 years experience in various industries, including retail, FMCG, in finance, logistics, and central banking. She is passionate about growing and developing others. She is in coaching and mentoring. A bit of her synopsis is that business analysis practices are rapidly emerging in organizations, valuing the business analysis capability and keen to invest in professional business analysis services. So she'll be taking us through that presentation, and some of the objectives or the key takeaways of her presentation will include the objectives of a BA practice, the business analysis practice maturity model, and how to establish a BA practice center, and lastly, business analysis practice management model. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Karabo Mmakou. You may share your video. Nice to have you, and we can't wait to hear from you. Over to you.
Thank you, Petunia. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, the BA community. My name is Karabo Mmakou, as I have been introduced, and it's such a great pleasure for me to be here and to be sharing with you around my experience in the business analysis and also in running a practice center. As Petunia has said, please post your questions in the chat, and we will be engaging shortly after this presentation, so please bear with me. I'm going to move on to my presentation now. Quickly gonna share my screen. And as I'm doing that, I would just like to check as to how many BAs are currently operating within a formal practice. You can just drop in the chat. That is just for my noting. Okay, so I hope you can see my screen. I will just now start with my presentation. So my presentation, as we have mentioned, is around maturing the business analysis capability through establishing a business analysis practice center, or actually conducting one. So in the presentation, I'm going to be covering the following. The Business Analysis Practice Center overview, its objectives and the maturity model of the BA practice, and the steps, or rather the considerations, that one should actually consider when looking at establishing a business analysis practice center. So this is in a case where there isn't one in the organization and you would like to start and you're wondering why. And then I will take you through a journey of how we went about it in my organization and how to actually manage a BA practice center. And lastly, how a mature BA capability looks like. So my presentation is in twofold. I'm going to take you through the theory around what has been written out there about the practice centers or the COEs, often referred as COEs as well, or even the competency centers. Then I will also take you on the practical journey that we have went through in my organization. So moving along in the overview, I would like to just uh, go through what has been written out there around what is a BA practice center. I went through certain articles that were written by thought leaders. I went through what Christoph Wolff has written in the IRAP magazine. You must be familiar with IRAP, or I assume so. It is the International Requirements Engineering Board. And he's defining that as a representation of an approach that provides core services, guidance, and good practices, and the supporting of training for the focus area of business analysis. And another thought leader, Scott Bernay, he's the manager of business analysis for the IIBA, also writes for the BA magazine or the BAM, which I think we're also familiar with. He's saying the practice includes a group of professionals working on business analysis best practices, training, support, and improvements for the benefit of the whole organization. Okay, now with me in my experience, I'm defining a practice center as a formal structure which is established to support the BA capability by aligning with best practice standards to deliver value to an organization. You will notice that I'm highlighting a few words here: good practices, or best practice standards. That is because it is very important, and you will see as I proceed in my presentation where that fits in. Then now that we have defined what the practice center is, then what is the main goal of this practice center? In my view, again, it is to grow, to grow and mature the BA capability through standardization, supported by defined objectives which are fit for an organization. And a key word there as well is fit for an organization. So we need to define what is fit for the organization, or is fit for purpose. Then quickly moving along onto the objectives and the value chain of the BA practice center. I will start with the value chain. So in the value chain, there are 4 activities: speaking to methodology, standards and tools, compliance monitoring, training and development, and knowledge management. And these 4 activities closely aligns to the practice center objectives at the top. So the first objective speaks to providing a support functions to BAs with regards to the provision of standards, tools and methodologies, then further drives the governance of defined and approved BA standards, processes, methodologies, and tools. Then identify and provide training and development to enable maturity of the BA capability and to support the organization strategy. Lastly, it aims at providing, a knowledge sharing structure and facilitation of knowledge practices, which contributes to the maturity of the BA role and capability. So again, you will see that the key words here that I'm highlighting is maturity. That is because it is the crux of this whole presentations, how to mature the capability. So having now speaking about the maturity, I would like us to look at the maturity model, or define what maturity looks like in business analysis. And I'm going to be doing that by taking you through a maturity model that we had defined in my organization. This level has got 4 levels. This maturity model has got 4 levels. I'm going to start at the bottom, where in level 1, we're speaking about awareness, or or it defines as there is an awareness of the BA practice in that organization, but it is not yet formally defined. So what we're saying here is that a business analysis practice, or rather business analysis is practiced in that particular organization that is at a level 1 of maturity. In level 2, we're speaking about an organization where there are standard BA requirement management practices which are defined and deployed. And in this level 2, we're referring to an organization that is more focused on managing their requirements. So if you look at, for example, the BA POC knowledge areas, requirements management is one of the knowledge areas that is actually carrying a lot of weight. So in a level 2 organization, we can say simply an organization is focused at doing requirement management very well, and other areas or knowledge areas might not be really focused on as yet. Then moving on to level 3, it is an aligned practice. What we're speaking of there is that there is a centralized practice of business analysis, and then it represents the entire enterprise, but it is more focused on the management of business alignment practices. So it is aligning with other structures that might exist in the organization, or even other cross-functional teams. And at level 4, optimization, this is the highest level of maturity. This is where most practice centers aim to get at. And with optimization, we're looking at a practice that is centralized and is responsible for optimization practices of business and technology. So in that level, the organization has evolved from being managed, being aligned, and it's looking at optimization, optimizing their ways of work, or improving the way that business analysis currently being done. And it's all for the benefit of the organization. So I will quickly move on from the maturity model, and then now get into the practical bits, or the the experience that I have been exposed to. And in here, I'm going to take you through the considerations that I have noted through my journey. And this is purely my notes that I would like to share with you, and also my lessons learned. Okay, so I've got 8 considerations here. They are in no particular order. Some are more important than others, but I think they are all worth noting. So firstly, there must be an acknowledgement and appreciation of a business analysis capability in an organization. And what I mean by that is that business analysis must be appreciated and understood, what it stands for, and also the value that it strives to bring onto the table in an organization. Number 2, the organization must value the standards, the governance and best practices, and also the principles of reuse. So what I'm referring to here is that the organization must value a standardized way of doing things, of carrying on the work, and the importance of carrying on governance and leaning on to best practice, and also value reusing. And with principles of reuse here, I'm not referring to a mere copy and paste, but rather appreciating what has been put out there, what has been defined, those designs, those business rules that has already been done, and we can leverage off them. Number 3, I believe that there must be an advocate for business analysis at an executive level. So here I'm speaking about a senior personnel in the organization who can actually advocate for the existence of business analysis. This is more important when you're starting on a journey, because obviously you will need financing, you will need costs to enable you to establish this practice. So if you have an advocate who can actually speak and motivate for that business case and that motivation, then the buy-in becomes easier. Okay, then number four, a centralized reporting structure. And here I'm not saying that in organizations where there is a decentralized reporting structure, it might not be possible to establish a PA practice. What I'm speaking here is about the fact that in a centralized reporting structure, it might actually be easy to 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 establish this practice center because resources are well within your reach and you can easily embed the standards. Then number five, it speaks to value of teamwork and collaboration. In most of our organizations, we have this teamwork and collaboration as one of our key values, but then it also plays an important role here because business analysis is not a siloed profession, or one who wouldn't really reap the results operating in a silo or sitting in a corner there. We need to collaborate with other teams out there that we serve, also bearing in mind that the solutions or the problems that we solve and the change that we bring in the organization is for the benefit of others. So it's keen to collaborate, and the organization must also support that. Number six, there must be a clear business analysis, business driver, and value proposition. This is probably even maybe number one of the consideration. This is to say business analysis is clear about the value that is going to provide for the organization. It's clear about its business drivers, what drives them, or what business analysis is all about, and the value proposition, what it is that is bringing to the table. Then number seven, enterprise maturity readiness, also very important because the more mature an enterprise is or an organization is, the easier the journey will be, or maybe even it will be quicker for you to establish a center. Then number eight, which is last, the recognition of an alignment to other practice methodologies or frameworks, also very important. Knowing that in the areas that we operate in, especially in IT, there's a lot of frameworks out there. If you look at the data management and governance, we're speaking of the DAMA framework, or we're speaking of the TOGA framework in enterprise architecture, in the governance of IT, we're speaking of the COVID and the ITIL in service delivery. And really, there should be a way of business analysis touching with those frameworks and aligning to them. Okay, so I will move forward now and take you through uh, the establishment of the practice center and the journey that we went through. And I must mention that it was not an easy journey and it was not a quick journey. It took about 2 years to establish a practice center, and now we are on the 8th year running with a practice center. So another point to note is that the um, the quickness, or rather the how your establishment journey is going to be either easy or quicker is dependent again on that maturity of the enterprise. Okay, so I will move on quickly and start on sharing with you the establishment journey. So number one, where did we start? We started by identifying the teams in the organization practicing business analysis. And I must mention that when this journey started, it was really not focused on establishing a practice center per se, but almost to standardize and to also ensure that the silo operations are brought within a centralized view, and also to ensure that there is common practices, but the establishment of the journey was not really the focus at that time. So at step number one, we started by identifying the teams in the organization that were practicing business analysis. It was also very siloed and decentralized, by the way. I think there was about 6 departments, all with business analysts, all doing their own business analysis process work differently, and using also different templates as well in their carrying of their work. Then the second step was looking at conducting an entire process maturity assessment to look at how those siloed teams are doing business analysis. That was also to understand how others are practicing business analysis. Then the third step was to conduct an enterprise maturity assessment. Also, that is very important, and it was to ensure that the enterprise will be ready to handle the standardization that is about to be brought in. And when we're looking at number four, then we conducted the initial business analysis maturity assessment. So that was now looking at how the capability is at, looking at those levels that I spoke to earlier. Okay, and from this step four, I would like to mention that looking back at those maturity levels that I shared earlier, at that time we scored at a level one. And from there on, we said, okay, where do we want to be? We defined the target maturity level where we want to be. And between the 4 and 5, that is where the need of a business analysis practice was also raised as one of the recommendation, because we're looking at standardizing and centralizing. So it was recommended that we do that within a formal practice center. Okay, then again, now looking at the target, we said, okay, ideally, we would like to be at the level 4. That is where everyone strives to be at. But then realistically, we settled with level 3. Okay, again, remembering that level 3 is looking at the alignment. Then there were a couple of gaps that were also identified between step 4 and 5. And we said, how do we look at now closing these gaps? And we established this program for standardization, alignment, and the optimization. Again, you will notice that the establishment of the standardization, alignment, and optimization is closely aligned to those levels of maturity. And in that step 6, 2 important things that I would like to mention is that we performed a lot of benchmarking as well. We looked in the market and in the industry to see what our other colleagues or our other counterparts in business analysis are doing, just to learn from them. And also most important was the change management, because now we had all these teams that were dispersed and doing business analysis differently. This was about to bring in a big change. So change management was one of the things that were executed in step 6. And then finally, we launched the BA Practice Center. And as part of that launch, there were also a couple of roadshows that were done to ensure that now the enterprise is aware of this business practice center and what it stands for and what it's all about. Then on step 8, appointment of a BA practice lead. I must also mention that in this step 8, it will be very much dependent on how the organizational structure is looking like. In certain organizations, the practice manager or the lead is also the BA manager. So you get organizations where there is a formal BA manager, but then there is a difference between the two. The BA manager is more responsible when it comes to the allocation of the work, when it comes to general management, admin, when it comes to the capacity management of the business analysis, but the BA practice lead or the manager is more on the governance, or ensuring that the governance and the standards that has been defined are adhered to. Like I said, in certain organizations, that responsibility might be run by the same person, or in certain organizations where the BAs might be reporting to other managers rather than the BA manager, or there is no BA manager, then the importance of a BA practice is important. I mean, a BA practice lead is important to ensure that the governance is done. You will notice now that in this journey, at the bottom, I have dropped the numbering. That is because the activities that are there at the bottoms now becomes almost like a they are becoming ongoing. So it is one of those activities that are ongoing now that the practice center is established. Another thing that I need to mention, why I also put them in this roadmap or in a road format, is because as you are managing the practice center, there might be a need to actually go back and revisit one of those steps at the beginning. It all depends on how the organization is embracing this practice center. So I'm going to speak at the bottom where we have the management of the BA practice, and I'm going to pack this a little bit for now because there is a slide that is dedicated to managing the BA practice or speaking to that. So if you look on the second block there is a clock that is actually indicating when a business analysis maturity assessment might be needed to be ran again. And this is dependent on organizations and what fits in your organization. In my organization, we're doing this every second year. There might be a need to do it um, within a year or after a couple of, it all depends, or even um, after 3 years or so. It all depends on how the organization is embracing this journey. Okay, then the next step is that having had done this maturity assessment, there will be a roadmap that needs to be also managed or executed, because the results of that maturity assessment will highlight what needs to be done. And the best way to manage that is through the definition of that roadmap and then executing that maturity roadmap as well. I'm indicating there that we are currently there where we are executing on the maturity assessment roadmap. And I must mention that the last maturity assessment that we did, it was just before the pandemic. And with the pandemic, there was a need to also, because of the lockdown, to halt certain activities. And with that roadmap that was defined in 2019 and the beginning of 2022, we had to pack that. And now we are busy executing roadmap now that things are moving back to normal. I'm going to quickly move on to the management of the BA practice, as I have mentioned. So there is a BA practice management model that we also defined in the organization to assist in managing this practice. And with my experience and while running the BA practice, I learned towards this management model. You will see that it's also closely aligned to what we have in the value chain and in the objectives, still speaking a lot about the methodology, standards, and technology, and then in the tools, it's speaking about quality assurance, knowledge management, training, and development. I'm going to quickly look at these 4 quadrants and actually the blocks that we have in there. So in the first one, where we're speaking about the methodology, standards, and tools, you will see that we're referring to management of the methodology changes and improvements. So in my organization, we were typically a waterfall environment, but then we're also embracing agile standards. We also looking at hybrid, a combination of the two. So that means there is a need to continuously go back to that originally defined methodology and change and manage the changes and include the improvements that are now being introduced by the agile practices or even hybrid. Then the tools and repository management also goes without saying, because we have tools that we use, we need to save the documentation or even the artifacts that we produce in a repository. There must be a repository that is being administered and management to see that happening. There's also a need for execution of those maturity assessments. I spoke about that in the previous slide. I'm not going to speak about that some more here. Then if we look at the bottom left now, we are speaking about quality assurance. What that means is that there must be standards, PA standards compliance. So those standards that we have defined, they must be complied to. And how do we see that there is compliance? There must be peer reviewed. Peer reviews also being done to ensure that those standards are being complied to. Then there must also be an alignment to the enterprise governance. I also spoke to that in the consideration, aligning to those governance standards and frameworks and other methodologies. Okay, and then in knowledge management, there must be an existence of a PA managed repository, and it must be managed. There must be a knowledge management that is being continuously being ran to ensure that the knowledge that the PA has is actually being shared with other PAs. And also important, there must be benchmarking which is being performed to just see what the market is doing, to see what the industry is doing, and how we can go back and improve on our maturity. Then looking at the training and development, again, with the example that I made with the methodologies, your agile methodologies, your hybrid, that calls for training to be done or on the PAs to ensure that they are still relevant. So defining that PA training curriculum is important. Then there might also be the development interventions that are required for PAs that are struggling. How do we pick each other up? There also need to be the PA coaching. Also, considering that we have new BAs that are coming in the market that are junior, that are looking up to the more experienced BAs or senior BAs, how do we ensure that those BAs are also empowered? And that is through that BA coaching process that has to be defined. In my organization, we pair in those junior BAs with the senior BAs so they can coach and mentor them. So this is the BA practice model that I am using in managing the practice. And then now moving forward, one might ask, how does a mature BA capability look like? So in my view, it looks like this. A mature capability is an optimized capability. Again, it's very much aligned to that maturity practice that I shared earlier. What is an optimized BA practice or capability? It's a BA capability that represents the entire organization. It must drive business improvement. What do I mean by business improvement is that a BA capability that is involved in senior conversations, that is involved in senior and strategic conversations. Then with that, you can achieve optimization because you are not only about delivering requirements, specifications, or managing requirements, you also adding value to ensure that the organizations are reaching their strategies and you are also closer to that and contributing to that. Also, there is a need to embrace business and technology in an optimized and mature BA capability. like in my organization, being in the central banking, which is very regulated. We're speaking about the regulatory technologies, RegTechs. We're speaking about the fintechs. How do we bring that in as well? And in an optimized level, we can bring that in by ensuring that it goes hand in hand with business improvement and is part of the innovation and the technology that needs to be embedded in. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I hope it was valuable. And at this point in time, I will take questions. I will ask Petunia to assist me with the questions that have been posted in the chat.
Thank you very much, Karabo. That was a very insightful presentation. We've learned a lot, and those are very impactful takeaways. For our question and answer, we've got Eunice Chabalala, who will be reading out the questions to you. Eunice, are you able to unmute to continue?
Yes, Petunia, thank you so much. Thank you, Karabo, for taking us through such a beautiful presentation. Under the question and answers, we have a question here from, I'm not sure if I can pronounce this nicely, but I think it's Nkiko or something like that. So he or she is asking, she's saying, hi there, would it be of any material value for one to be both IIBA and PMP/CAPM accredited? Would this give you any edge above your peers? This is our first question. Please, could you kindly assist in answering it?
Okay, thanks for that question. So I believe, yes, this would be of very great value because organizations are also different. And what is important is to also, before you embark on those certifications, look at, and I must say that a CBEP certification for business analysis is extremely important, and the other certifications also, but look at where your organization is going. What drives your organization? Is your organization strong on the process management side? Is it strong on the data management side? Is it strong on project delivery, on service delivery? Then identify from there what will help you to actually benefit, or let me rather put it this way, with those certifications, how can you help business? Because remember that we exist to deliver value to business, to ensure that business is easily accepting the changes that we bring along. So to actually map those other certifications to the journey or to the strategy of the business will also add value.
Thank you very much, Karabo. I'm not sure if he or she is answered, but I believe he or she should be answered. I think we have our second question here. I think it's sorry about that. Please give me a sec. It's Delina Pretorius is asking a question to say, they are very curious to know what model you have used to assess maturity and the method. Otherwise, great content. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for me to take away. So they basically asked the question as very curious to know what model you have assessed to assess maturity and the method. That is the question from Delina. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that question, Delina. So what we have done really to assess our maturity, we didn't do it ourselves in-house. So we went out there and looked for the best players in the market or experienced vendors that we can work with that can assist us on the value or on the journey. So we have actually used the maturity assessments that were defined from that point of view. So they were actually, or we actually outsourced the maturity assessment to those best players in the market. That is the 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 the, the the journey, or rather the approach that we took. But one of the maturity models that comes into my head that I think it is very important is the PEM maturity model, is the process enterprise maturity model. Most of the consulting houses also uses that model, and it can really give you great results to really show you or plot you to where you are in the maturity levels. I hope I'm answering the question, Dalil. Thank you.
Thanks, Karabo. We have hands, I think. Can you please kindly just unmute and ask the questions that you have for her, please? Those that have raised their hands.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can definitely hear
I
you.
can hear
Please
you.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My name is Carrington Mkwas. My question is, I'm just trying to wrap around my head. Okay, by the way, thank you so much for a very insightful presentation, quite inspiring too. What I'm trying to understand, or what I may need to understand, is what would be the business case for having a business analysis practice center? Let's say I want to motivate to have that in my organization. What would be the ideal business case? Secondly, let's say the business analysis practice lead is not the business analysis manager like you explained. Will that not bring in some sort of conflicts or some sort of clashes within the environment? That's my second question. The third question is, a business analysis practice center, what sort of an organization need to have that? Can that be for any organization, or it fits certain it satisfies certain conditions within other organizations? Thank you. I just hope I made myself clear. Thank you.
Okay, Tarrington, you made yourself very clear, and I'm going to start with your first question around the business case. So, first things first, you need to identify if it is important in your organization to standardize. And I'm going to try and answer number 1 and 3, or all in ones. So now, if in an organization that is large with different siloed teams that are practicing business analysis, then that would be ideal to establish a practice center, because you want to get the organization to a standardized way of work for business analysis. You wouldn't want or rather the organization. Now with the organization, I'm referring to business that we're serving, where they have different business analysis that are serving them differently, or that are using different methodologies or different tools or even different templates. So you would want to standardize. So that would be ideal in that organization. I hope I'm answering your last question. And also, to motivate for a business case, you would use that same reason of driving the standards, driving governance. But also, what is important for the business case is what value then would the organization get from that. And that might be motivated with an answer that is specific to your industry, specific to your organization. But the core of actually establishing a center is to standardize and looking at the levels again to reach optimization at the end through standardization, through governance. So as you moving along those levers of maturity, ultimately you will get to optimization. And that is where I think the value will also be realized more. Not saying that with requirements management practices, the value of the BAs is not being seen, but being able to also drive business optimization and improve and innovate will also be important. And all are those elements that would add into your business case. I hope I answered your question, Terrington.
Thank you. Well answered.
Thank you. We're going to take our last question from Baring, and then we're going to allow our president, Ms. Ketelo Malinga, to speak. She's asked for the floor. You may go ahead, Baring.
Okay, yes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yes. Yes, okay. I tried to actually type my question, but I just put in the copy and paste by mistake. But my question is, does the BA Practice Center play a role in actually assisting companies to help new BA when they are actually joining the company in terms of onboarding? That is my question.
Okay, thank you, Baring. And I really like your question, because in my organization, really the existence of a practice center is helping us to onboard BAs that are coming into organizations. I mean, in their organization, whether they are juniors, they are graduates, they are experienced BAs that are joining the organization for the first time, because the practice center has established a formal methodology, formal tools, formal way of work, and it's easy to actually bring in a BA onboarding plan in terms of getting them to speedily get onboarded into an organization. So it is really of a great help. Thank you, Baring.
Thank you much, Carol. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'm going to allow Ms. Ketelo Malinga, our president, a moment to speak, just to address us. Over to you, Ketelo.
Thank you so much, Petunia. Thank you. Also to Karabo, I really, really appreciate the conversation you've shared today. It's pertinent, and I think in organizations without practice centers, if they were part of this conversation, I think they can definitely leverage off the knowledge that you've shared. You shared so generously a lot of information, so calmly as well. Thank you so much. I trust that the people who've joined, have gained and are much wiser for having joined. I do want to quickly share my screen and just talk through the process that we have at the moment. Give me 1 second. I just want to share. Okay, so I'm not going to take too much of your time because I know we are supposed to be closing off at 8 o'clock. Okay, so I'm going to give a quick conversation about the IBA SA board elections. They are open at the moment. We actually did do an extension. So from an IBA perspective, we run elections every 2 years because the term, actually we tend to run them every year because the term for the board members is a 2-year long term. I'm going to quickly just give you an idea of what it's about so that if you are interested, you can then, pursue the opportunities that are available. Quickly, for those who are wondering, what is IBA if you're on the call and you don't know? So IBA is the International Institute of Business Analysis, and it's a professional association with, the key focus of just promoting and supporting the discipline of business analysis. I trust I am preaching to the choir and people who know, but just in case. So I'm going to go very quickly to what IBA offers. Well, firstly, it defines a profession of business analysis. It provides a set of commonly accepted principles. It sets the bar for the discipline. It provides competency-based certification. It builds the communities, and it helps the professional to understand the skills, competencies, tools, techniques, terminologies that are required to perform business analysis. And then it also helps employers know what to expect when they hire a business analyst professional. The thing I highlighted from this slide is the leadership development. And that's the one part I'm going to be speaking about today. So the elections are for board members. We've got 4 positions that are available. And that is what IBA offers, leadership development. So this is a safe place for you to grow your leadership skills. And I would implore you, if you are interested, to definitely apply. The election officer is going to speak right after me to give you the process for applying. I joined IBA as a volunteer. Just to give you a brief of my story. I joined IBA as a volunteer, not really looking for, this position at the beginning, just to volunteer. I love the community. I loved sharing, what I knew. I loved helping out when IBA needed support, just being part of a community. And if I'm stuck with something, I always had people to, speak to. If I was looking for a job, I knew I had a community of people I could just send one WhatsApp, and many people would come back with opportunities that they know are available. So I came in from that perspective, but I've grown and continue to grow through IBA. And as I said, it's definitely a safe environment for you to grow and learn. So if you are interested, do have a look at that as well. The core objective of IBA South Africa is to serve our community well. And our community is the people on the call. Our community is our members, our community is our volunteers, our community is our partners. We've got corporate partners who are corporate members of IBA South Africa, or IBA is international actually. We've got EEPs, endorsed education providers. We've got now we're actually getting even more corporate partners. So there's a whole host of people that we try to serve from an IBA perspective. The role, I need to highlight very important things on the role. So the role the positions that are available are all at a volunteer capacity. So IBA South Africa is a volunteer community. And just a highlight of what volunteering is. So volunteering is a contribution of your time, your effort, your talent, or a need, cause, or a mission. And the highlighted section here is that it is without financial gain. So that means that it's free of charge. We don't get paid for what we do. We do it because we care for the community. We do it because we love what we do. It really is, it has to come from the heart. It has to be something that you are passionate about, because there will be no financial gain. And we don't want you to lose heart along the way because you're not getting paid for it, but you are giving of your time and of your effort. So do know up front that it is something that you'll be doing for free. But there are benefits. As I mentioned, you get to grow your leadership skills, you get to interact with people at a strategic level. And as I said, it is definitely all a safe environment. Then just very quickly, my last slide is just to talk about the roles that we have from a board perspective and the whole structure of IBA. So from a board perspective, you can see the roles that we've got. We've got the president, we've got the secretary, the treasurer, the operations, membership, professional development, and we've extended that to mentorship as well. We've got technology, and then we've also got communications, branding, as well. So those are the current portfolios that we have. There are 4, as I mentioned, that are available at the moment. And when you apply, the reason why we didn't specify which ones are available is because there are some board members that would be keen on changing into others. So that's a conversation that we have only once you're in, but it does give you at the top of those categories what exactly you'll be focusing on. Then you'll see also the operations portfolio has an additional leg to it, which is your regional chairs. So your regional chairs are, we know we've got the Joburg one, Lesego, Cape Town one, we've got Z, Durban, we've got Lara, and they just help us identify and execute the initiatives that actually support the IBA strategy. So they run with these initiatives, they assist us with, as you've seen, a lot of these events that we run, our tools and techniques sessions, the micro classes, the master classes, the study groups, they're run by our regional volunteers or our regional chairpersons. They're doing an amazing job. And I do want to thank them again and again and again for making sure that the IBA strategy is realized. We do have a non-executive board as well. And they just provide a strategic oversight and they ensure that what we do is on board and it's in alignment with, the IBA strategy. And then, as I mentioned, we've got many other legs to this and verticals to this, which includes our sponsors, corporates, education providers, global partners, volunteers, etc. I'm not going to go into too much of the detail of some of the objectives, but there are quite a few objectives that we tend to work on as the IBA community, and those objectives are part and parcel of what you will be bringing your skills and capabilities to as well. So I look forward to some of your input. Do note that we do have certain requirements as well for these applications. You have to be an IBA member. That's just it's part of our bylaws. It's also part of the mother body. It's a requirement on their side. You cannot not be an IBA member. Another thing I do want to highlight, and I think the election officer will also speak to, is that you must have been a volunteer for IBA. So the benefit of that is that what we tend to do is we work with existing volunteer base or existing volunteers because they already understand, the commitment that's required to serve at IBA. And also you move up the ranks, if I can call it that, from an IBA perspective. And it's an opportunity for you to start off as a volunteer and then grow your way up into the board. So please, as I mentioned, have a listen at what the election officer will say. He will be answering a lot of the questions on email as well, because we are considerate of time. I have gone over, apologies about that. He will just give more information as well on the process, and any other questions, you will be able to direct it to him at election@southafrica.iba.org. He'll confirm that email as well. So I'm going to hand over to Olu. Some of the questions you may have now will probably also be answered by him as well. Thank you so much, appreciate it. And one last thing, there's this quote that I really, really love, and I always say it, and I'm sure people that have heard it 100 times from me, but it's about serving, which is what IBA is about. So it goes, if serving is below you, then leadership is above you. And it goes to show that IBA is really being of service. That's the crux of IBA for us. It's really being of service, sharing of your skills, your talent. So I look forward to some more applications, and the election officer will talk you through that process. Olu, I'm going to hand over to you.
Hi guys, am I audible? Hello?
I can hear you, Olu.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Gives me a lot of pleasure to be here. Ketelo has done justice to the why you should consider serving on the board of the IBA. I think it's both a privilege and an honor to be serving the community. And there are also benefits, and she did highlight some of the benefits, chief of which is that you get an opportunity to sharpen your leadership skills or leadership capacity. So I will dive in straight into the election process. So the election process are pretty much straightforward. About 3 steps. The first is the nomination and verification process, which requires the members of the community who are eligible. I'll address eligibility in a second. Who are eligible, nominate themselves or get somebody else within the community to nominate them. And then the IBA election committee, in concert with the current board, would verify the nominations and determine that indeed whoever has been nominated is indeed eligible to stand for office. And we really look at 2 critical items. Besides your motivation for wanting to join the IBA board, the other 2 things that are critical is that you are an IBA member as of the close of nomination. So at first, we had said that you need to be an IBA member on or before the 25th of October. But we did realize that that could be a deterrent factor for a number of people who might be interested in serving on the IIBA board. So this has been extended to coincide with the end of the actual nomination process. Sorry, I just need to quickly decline the call. The second and perhaps slightly more critical than being a member. Being a member is critical, but the second is that you need to have been active within the community and must have volunteered in the last 12 months. If your activity has waned in the last 12 months, but you've been active prior, and you're trying to get onto the board as a way of rejigging your activeness with the IIBA community, I think that's also welcome. And if you're in doubt around your eligibility, but you're quite willing to serve, then it's critical that you also apply. Nomination closes was originally meant to close on the 1st of November, but we didn't have enough nominations, so we've extended till the 6th of November, which is Sunday. So please, if you're really keen, I think you need to start putting together your motivation as well as start completing the nomination form. And if you don't have the nomination form, just email election without the S, election at southafrica.iiba.org. Otherwise, reach out on any of the volunteer chat groups, and somebody will provide you with the election email address, and we will verify why you didn't get the original email and send you the nomination form. Once the nomination is complete, if we have more nominations, more credible nominations than we have seats for, we'll go into a voting process. We'll send out ballots to all eligible members. Voting usually takes 3 to 4 days. We'll tell you how long it will take when we send out the voting email. And once voting complete, the ballots are counted, and the candidates are informed first of the results of the election a day after the voting exercise complete, and the rest of the community will be informed within 24 to 48 hours afterwards. And that's pretty much it. And if you have any questions for me, I'm all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the questions will come directly to you, Olu, and obviously through to Ketelo. And we've come to the end of our presentation. Let me first just take this opportunity to apologize to everyone who has asked the question and was not answered. We have taken the questions down, and we will be responding and providing those answers back to you. From myself, Petunia, and to everyone from the Johannesburg region, thank you so much for attending, and we'll see you at the next Tools and Techniques session. Have yourself a great evening.